Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
This is Jay Street.
And welcome to The Source. Last week I was away, and I want to thank my brothers for really carrying the ship and did a phenomenal job. But today I return, and the first thing that's hitting me is two articles that occurred in the News Journal online, Delaware News Journal Online, and it all has to do with Adams Street. I'm following this very closely because I have some serious issues with when we find ourselves always disenfranchising the disenfranchised. These individuals paid their rent. They did what they were supposed to do. The landlord was a slum, and then they end up still having serious issues. But what grieves me even more than the slumlord is the slum city folks. I am not bashing the mayor. I am not bashing the president of city council. I just believe that it is an outright disgrace before God that we have residents who did the right thing, who are citizens, pay their tax, do what they're supposed to do, and they were living honestly, and the complaints to the level that the complaints were being brought in against this landlord, and for them just to say nothing we can do for you but act like we're doing something, it's inappropriate. I read both of those articles, and it troubled me even more when I found out that they didn't even want to release to the public, at the request of a FOIA to the News Journal, what all the complaints that L&I had against the landlord. Finally, it was released, and it was over. As I was reading, it's over. Where is it at? 372 code violations that occurred. This is just outright preposterous. It's outright egregious. The city has to do more. I heard the comments of the city council president. I'm going to be very straight with you because I'm not a politician. City council president, it is okay to say that we dropped the ball, but it is not okay to continue to let the ball be out of bounds. At this point, what are we doing, Mr. City Council President? What are we doing to make the lives of those residents on 8th and Adam better? We can no longer just blame the mayor. Now it's a city issue. We had the same problem with the flooding. We have to prepare ourselves for what I call emergencies. And if this would have happened in another part of town, like in the 8th district, it would have been fixed. Why isn't it fixed? I set the ground record for this segment, and I'll open up for you brothers to say anything you would like to say at this time.
Yeah, so it's a few things when it comes to North Adams Street that I have issues with. One, those families are still in emergency sheltering, whether they're in the Hope Center, they're in the motels right now, or staying with a family or friend member, right? Yes. The issue I have with that is nowhere in the Delaware Landlord Tenant Code does it make the landlord require the landlord to have to pay for emergency sheltering because of their negligence with the property.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm saying then the city needs to step up.
Correct.
Since they are citizens of this city,
right,
they need to step up and do something.
And here's the thing, though. If they can go back and try to get their money now, right before this happened, AJ, he took over $27,000 in rent, right? And now these people are out of money. They're trying to find somewhere to live. What the city said, oh, you can go after that. You could get your money back in court. Well, how about this? In over 700 cases against AJ, involving AJ and his tenant units, almost always the court sides with him. And you want to know what? This is why we wanted a tenant's right to counsel. SB 101, which is down in Leg Hall, which is being held up right now in the Joint Finance Committee, thanks to Pete Swarthkoff. This is why we wanted right to counsel for people, because most of these tenants who have been in court with AJ already have been in court without representation because they don't have the money to pay for an attorney.
And he's aware of that.
And he's aware of that, and he's taking advantage of that. Also, you look at these properties, nothing has changed really.
Nothing.
Nothing has changed. And so this gets back to our root argument of why did the city pass this blight bill that they came out when this first happened. Oh, we're going to clean up blighted properties. All they did was displace people, and then now allows him not only to have other people try to live in the place, but he gets application fees.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about that in a second because we haven't gotten to that part of it yet. But tell me a little bit about that blight bill, because for those who are watching, may not be watching every weekend, I'm very grateful that our viewership is up. But tell us a little bit about that blight bill, because we had some issue with that before on this show.
It's the concept of blight in the city is real. Don't get me wrong, right? And there needs to be something done about the dilapidated properties that people are living in, the ones that have no heat, no hot water, black mold, holes all over the place. Something needs to be done with that. But the blight bill, what it does, it gives the city the power to go in and kind of condemn exactly what happened on North Adams Street. And then following that, over 50 other residents have been displaced from that Monday to that Thursday that were in single units all across the city. But because they weren't on North Adams Street, the city wasn't willing to help them because they did not get the same media attention. It wasn't the bad press that the mayor didn't like, right? So they only wanted to help the North Adams Street, who is still struggling. The city really did not do anything. Now, the workers tried their best to help, but this is a policy issue. This is a homelessness, home displacement is a policy decision, and that's what needs to change.
Well, let me, Jay, I don't know if you wanted to jump in. You're quiet today. You silent night today. I don't know whether it's Christmas or not, but I want to add into this whole fiasco. When I read this article, I said to myself, why? Now, Street, you and I had a little debate before. You were debating me earlier before we went on the air. We have too much black representation in this city. We have black clergy, we have black politicians, we have black morticians, we have black. But the only community, other than with the Latino community, the only community that is suffering to the level that it's suffering is the black community. No way in the world. How many we have?
That's
9?
I adamantly disagree with that.
Let's hear it.
Low-income people of all walks of life and all colors are suffering inside and outside of the city of Wilmington.
Okay.
And I know because my councilmatic district, both in and out of the city, has a lot of people from all walks of life
And what does that
disenfranchised. And
who's the majority?
you're talking about fundamentally low-income people who are poor, who are not rich. Middle class and low-income people, be they black, white, or polka dot, are suffering the same disenfranchisement as people of color.
Right.
They're all one and the same. Just like when we desegregated the schools and we had the kids from the east side fighting the kids from the trailer park down in Glasgow. And Hicks looked at me and said, you know who's catching the most hell down here? I said, who? He said, the kids in the trailer park. The black kids got me and you. They got nobody.
I agree.
And he took them on.
Yeah, but I agree with you when you say that it is the low income and who are most disenfranchised, but the representation in the low income is the Latinos and the African Americans. That is the high representation. Yes, we have some Caucasians in that group, but I don't want to lose the focus. With all of the black people and Latinos who are represented in this city, there's no reason why the city council is not doing something. And that's why I know that this is a political problem for some people. I have an issue with the president of the city council because while he can easily say that we dropped the ball, what in the world are we doing to pick the ball up?
Okay, but the fact of the matter is, it's fundamentally flawed public policy. First of all, you should have a policy in place where you as a city who are condemning have a plan in place to move the people that in the buildings that you're condemning.
Right.
Second, there's no reason, in my opinion, that when the city makes that determination that it's condemned, the city is part and parcel to the condemnation. And I think they have, in my view, they have a responsibility to provide legal counsel for them.
And let me just say one
if the
thing,
tenants
too.
can't get the landlord to pay on their own, what's wrong with, just like the city has intervened on the watch of 2 mayors in school matters, why can't the city intervene in the landlord-tenant situation when they're the ones who caused it, who brought it forward?
But here's the thing. What we're saying is not you know, it can be done very easily. And why I know it can be done very easily is because people in the state and people in the county have stepped up
Right.
and did it in the absence of the city.
Right.
You have Matt Meyer there on site. He wasn't looking to be on camera. He said, look, we have the Hope Center. Let's see what we can do to help.
Is this-
We have Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker who came over and said, look, we have some contacts at a motel for everyone who can't get into the Hope Center. We can take them to the motel. We can get DHSS, the Delaware Health and Human Services, on the line for these people as well too.
But the fact of the matter is, City Council passed a budget.
Yep.
They eliminated positions, some of which were in the Office of Constituent
They
Services.
not just eliminated, they slashed it in half.
But that's why I'm still winning the argument. Yes, it's disenfranchising the poor, but why do we have the representation in the political arena, city council? We know we have an African American in the mayor's office that is not represented, the chief of staff. But in the city council who make the law, who makes the policy, how come it has not changed anything for the betterment of our people?
I just want to say for city council,
Yes.
I know you said you had an issue with the council president. He's voted against this stuff. It's the fact that when this new council came in, Hanifa Shabazz, as the outgoing council president, set the agenda.
Start me with that.
And the agenda put forth a different set of rules than the council president. Now, never in the history of city council has that been done.
True.
The person who wins gets to set the rules with the consensus of the rest of the council. But because she was upset she lost, she put Chris Johnson's resolution on first to change the rules, to take away all power from the council president. This is the weakest the council president has ever been in the history of the Wilmington City Council from its inception to this day.
And
But
well
there's
said.
But there's still another major problem here that we haven't included. I believe it was 3 weeks ago I said that normally when a property is condemned, you're boarded up. And it was my understanding that the boards had been purchased and the landlord asked the city not to board them up, okay? But on the other hand, the property's condemned, but now he's advertising.
Well, I'm going in. I'm not going. Let's go there yet.
Okay.
But I gotta say.
But here's my point. They're condemned. I have seen the city take people's houses for water bills.
Oh, yes.
Both in and out of the city. If he owes all these fines, why doesn't the city take possession of the properties and do what they need to do
Very good
to
question.
make everybody make everybody whole, just like they do with their water bill?
One of the things that they're doing in this United States Senate is they're putting bills on the floor so that people can get on record voting for or against.
Yep.
The reason why I came after the president of city council is not because of how much power he currently has. It's about where is the plan to say, look, I'm trying my best. I want to see this different. I don't want to see no more excuses. I'm sick and tired of seeing that our people are being
So if
disenfranchised.
you're talking about putting bills on the floor, he doesn't even have the power to that. They took
Jesus.
that away from him and gave it to a non-elected chief of staff who they just voted on to approve, the new chief of staff since Daniel Walker's gone, who's Matt Daltrey, who works for Senator Carper, and guess whose campaign he ran for the special election? Bud Frills. So
geez.
again,
This
these
thing is-
8,
No,
This
you,
thing is deep.
You need to understand the
Jeez.
relationship at the higher
Bud Frill,
the higher,
Mayor Pazicki, and Loretta Walsh are running all these
you know-
minorities who are on council.
This is the reason why we need good debate. Because even with me saying, where's the plan to the council president, I didn't even know to the level, and you who are watching us, to the level of craftiness, witchcraft that has occurred. And you just laid the last part.
Switchcraft.
No.
They don't switch the rules as soon as Trippy became the president.
They so
switched
mad
the
he
rules
won?
To
They're so
everybody's
mad he won.
disadvantage.
And you know, it's funny because somebody told me that we got a letter from this community saying that they didn't want us to build this new senior housing that we're going to build. I know it came from Hanifa folks because that's what happens. But when you said that, that is really interesting. I'm interested in knowing who this person is, who's the new chief of staff, and we need to get into more details about this person. So let's do some investigative work because this is just ridiculous. I've never seen nothing like this in my whole life, and it's to the point where, but even some of the votes, votes that occurred with the mayor's budget being passed, how many of us supported it and it raised taxes on people's houses. It's just unbelievable.
But I'm not done yet.
I'm going to go back to my point that our elders, my elders, and those who broke barriers and blood, sweat, and tears to get black people elected are rolling over in their graves and know that we have a majority-minority city council that does not serve the best interest of the people that put them in office.
They've been bought.
Yeah, so, another thing I want to talk about real quick is the fact we're talking about a lot of housing and the issues going on right now. I talked about the bundling bill. Well, what happened with one of these other bills was Bud Friel put up an eminent domain bill. Now, anyone who knows what eminent domain is, it means they could come in and take your property.
It means they're stealing houses. That's what it means.
They steal your house. And all across this nation, it has been used predominantly to impact minority communities. It's a horrible piece of legislation. So Bud Friel said, okay, this bill should be in the Housing Committee. Let's not put it in the Housing Committee because we don't have the votes. Because we, the community, has spoke up and got enough votes to kill it in committee. So he moved it to the Admin Committee. We had hundreds of people on ready to testify against the bill. You know what they did? Oh, we're not going to hear this bill, but we're going to walk it. They took away the public's. It means that instead of letting the public have their say and voting on it publicly, they're going to go to each office of the committee members and have them sign the back if they agree with it or not, so it can get on the floor. And next week, this coming week, yeah, it's legal. That's in the rules of the State House. This is Bud Friel, who dropped off the bill as its prime sponsor and had Nnamdi step on and laughs at the fact that, oh, well, it can't be racist now. This is what is going on. They are trying. This is a coordinated effort. I have never seen a bill that's not a charter change that only impacts the city of Wilmington in an impact like this. This bill is going to go along to get along for everyone who's in the end, for all these developers and real estate people who want more property in the city of Wilmington as they reimagine Wilmington. Look, they're already changing.
Reimagining double the rent, and everybody's taking
exactly.
Everybody's
pushing everyone out. They already changing the names of parts of the city. Southbridge isn't even Southbridge anymore. They're calling it South Wilmington.
No, it's not South Wilmington. This is Southbridge. It's going to remain Southbridge.
It's crazy.
Because our church is 102 years old, and we're going to be here another 102 years, even though I'll be dead and gone. It's going to always be Southbridge. But let's stay there for a second, because what I'm missing from City Council, for real, I'm missing people like Sam Guy, who was a historian, who understood what happened before and what's going on now. Now, is there a thing called a bond, floating bond, that maybe the city could take out since they say they don't have the money to help these disenfranchised, I want to put us back on track, to help these disenfranchised residents of Adams Street? Is there, can the city take out off of what they already have and say, you know what, until the money comes from the federal government, we're going to make sure our citizens are safe and secure?
Well, they don't need to do that because the city has the money already.
You just passed a budget with a $9 million surplus. That was reflected in the budget. They just got $6 million for sewer bill from the county that they weren't expecting because we were going to litigate that they were going to have to spend money.
Yeah.
So there's money there. The whole problem of getting the tenants situated is just inexcusable.
Well, I think now
But unfortunately, as I always say, it's going to be settled.
See,
it's going to be settled, but a judge or judges is going to have to do the city's job, and the problem is, how long is that going to take?
And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm starting to buy into that philosophy, even though I did not at first. I'm saying, you know, let's take to the streets and this, that, and the other, but they're going to do what they want to do, because one of the things that I'm very concerned about is that while there's some heat, there's movement, but there's no real action, and that's the problem. I feel really terrible. I do the best I can as an individual. We do the best we can as those who represent you. But the reality of it is, what they're doing to these residents on 8th and Adams, as well as across the city.
Across the city.
Across the
8th
city.
and Adams
Yeah.
got the publicity.
Right, you're right.
Because,
You're right.
Because you basically you have an entire block of buildings that this landlord owns, but there have been condemnations throughout the city, and everybody who was living in the buildings that were condemned are suffering the same harm that everybody that lived at 8th and Adams is suffering.
We have to start getting ready for election. We're going to have to really start getting ready to find people who are advocates for the people that they represent, not people who are trying to enrich themselves. But this same joker, he's now been, he said, don't board up the properties. He said, you know, I'm going to take care, fix whatever, and he did nothing. But another article came out just this week with this joker, and I'm calling him a joker because that's what he is. He is advertising these exact same apartments. How can that be true? How can that be true? Somebody calling me now probably tell me don't say that no more. I'm going to say it again. How can he be and it's so interesting, $950 a month, he was advertising a one-bedroom apartment for 20 of the 27 units that were already condemned, which speaks to what you talked about 4 or 5 weeks ago about the application process, collecting the fees, and this guy says to the reporter, not knowing that he was a reporter, when do you want to move in? This is where you fill out the application.
And he will probably go on and rent them to somebody and tell them they just got to sneak in.
No, I hope not. No, I hope not. I hope not.
Well, the fact of the matter is, the Flam Flam is alive and well, and it doesn't appear that anybody's intervening but the News Journal.
I noticed that. I noticed that. So he's connected, obviously, to the group. Let me ask you this question, because you're the legal person, or city council person, or not city, county council person. In order for me to run a daycare, I have to have a license from the city of Wilmington to do business in the city. These landlords, do they have to have a permit to be landlords?
Yeah.
Answer, he said no. Are you sure?
You got to have a license.
You have to have a license.
You have to have a license.
Yes.
So those city.
Well, all you got to do is pay the filing fee.
No. But there has to be.
But there's supposed to be an inspection of all the properties.
Oh, no, they should do pre-rental inspections not only when someone gets their first license, but they should do it every time they're putting a new tenant in.
Forget about the should, because what's happening in court is that this guy, this joker, is continuously winning because he's following the law. I'm asking a specific question. Is there a license or is there a permit for them to rent apartments? The answer to that is yes. Now the question is, can the city revoke what they issue to him? Can they say, you can't do business in the city based on how you have treated my residents? You cannot do business in the city no more. Can it, and I don't know the answer.
Renew his license, yeah.
Can they revoke it now?
Come on. What is it you don't understand? The fact of the matter is they didn't board their houses up because they were afraid he was going to sue. You can't run the city and be afraid of being sued and litigating. Okay? That's what your city solicitor's office is for. If your city solicitor and your legal staff can't handle it, that's what you use outside counsel for. Now, they use outside counsel when they want to defend these police shootings. And they pay a lot of money for that. And, you know, their law firms and their lawyer friends get richer, but they're scared.
For the person who can't afford, Jay, a lawyer, because that's who we're talking about. For the person who just paid their rent.
The bill he's talking about is so very, very important.
And we're going to make sure we start advocating for these type of bills more. I've never really been an advocate for legislation, but now I'm starting to see why it's so important. That will go along with your whole litigation piece, because if you can sue based on what the law is, you end up coming out all right. But this guy is renting apartments. He's collected $27,000 worth of rent. He has not done what he needed to do. These people are displaced. Why can't they revoke his license? I'm going to call you, Mr. Mayor, this week. All you who are listening,
but
and I want to know that answer.
If I take 100 applications at $50 a piece, that's $5,000.
$5,000.
If I take 200, that's $10,000.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. And what are y'all going to do about it?
Well, and that's what the problem is. We keep saying that we're going to get some legal counsel. We're going to try to help you all. But there are some things I know the city can do. And I believe, now I'm not really, I didn't have to deal with this, but if you got a slumlord, you can revoke him from being, you may not be able to take his apartments, but you can say, you know what, you cannot lease here anymore.
But no, you can take my house because I don't pay my water bill. But if I find you under the Wilmington City Code, I can't take your property?
No, because you're probably in the boys club. So we ain't gonna put that legislation out. We don't put out, because the person who can't pay their water bill is poor.
Right.
We're not gonna, yeah, we'll take your house because you can't defend yourself in court and we treat you like a dog. However, for my buddy, Mr. Joker, I don't even know his name.
AJ Prony.
Okay, for him, no, he's my buddy. He's in the club. He's at the Wilmington house.
Him and Pazicki's known each other for years.
Well, he said that.
They said it. They said it.
It's
But for
unacceptable.
real, if someone is struggling with paying their water bill, there is a DHAP program. So feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah.
But there has to be more done. There has to be more done with helping residents who are trying to do the right thing but fell behind because of inflation, because of how much gas is right now. You know, people are going to fall behind, but yet they keep getting penalized for this. But then you have people who are like AJ, landlords who are slumlords,
Yeah.
who, again, even with this blight bill, still get to make a profit. And the only people, like we said, when Maria Cabrera picked this bill up, the only people that are going to be impacted by this is the resident.
Listen, I just need y'all to help me, to bring me up to speed. I was away on a cruise enjoying myself. What's up with Wilmington settling $650,000 on a teen that got shot?
Yeah, so again, this is someone else under the Chief Tracy administration, the Pazicki administration, who was barred in. And in 2019, he shot a young teen, at the time he was 17, in the back, senior in high school. Shot him in the back, said he was the suspect in a stolen car, and that, you know, he was going towards him and had a gun and everything. Well, come to find out, not only was the officer lying about that, the officer was also carrying a firearm that was not a regulated city-issued, department-issued firearm.
Excuse
He
me?
had modified the barrel of the gun to make it worse, and he shot this young man and tried to cover it up, tampered with evidence, and tried to intimidate the family. This was Yaheem Harris was shot by Officer McCall, who's no longer with the department, but Officer McCall was also involved with the Jeremy McDowell shooting. This was not his first time
Oh my
shooting an
gracious.
unarmed black person in the city of
So
Wilmington.
the question is he in jail? That's what I want to know
He's
now.
charged with tampering evidence. Tampering with evidence, that's the only thing. And as far as I'm concerned, he should have been charged with attempted murder.
Right.
He shot that boy in the back,
Right.
and he didn't have anything. And not for
And he
the
lied,
fact
right?
that
And he
the
lied.
family had gone to Terrence Jones, and they involved Kobe, and Terrence investigated and said, oh, no, this was a bad shooting. And then Kobe and others worked with Terrence and made it a matter of public record. Had that not happened, we would have never found out the impropriety that went forward
This is
in
just
that
outright
particular
crooked.
case. And as far as I'm concerned, the family cut him a break for settling for
I was going to say that.
$650,000.
That's horrible because the lawyer going to get half of that. The question I keep asking is, he altered the gun,
Yep.
making it more lethal. Attempted murder should have been off of that alone. And he shot this kid, and he lied about it.
Yep.
What is going on?
Welcome to the city of Wilmington, Murder Town, USA. And it's not just a kid shooting a kid.
Oh, well, Murder Town, USA, that's on the dentist. That's not on this mayor. That's on the dentist. You can't say
Even
that.
though,
No,
you're
no, no.
right, it was under Dennis. Even though every statistic that happened in 2015 under Mayor Dennis Williams has been broken not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, but 6 times under this mayor. 6 times they have broken
But
that
when
record.
Dennis was the
But
mayor,
this is a great
if you
place.
don't do something and you don't change your police chief, we're going to take the city charter.
Yep.
Because he's a different color. Don't be jealous. Y'all black folks don't stick together. Y'all black folks don't stick together, so we can treat y'all like where we want to. We get a good mayor, we're going to treat him like a dog because you know y'all black folks ain't going to stick together.
Because we'll run 2, 3, 4 African-American candidates at a time. And that can't happen again.
It better not happen again. Well, I shouldn't say that. I can't say that. No, I'm sorry. I hope it doesn't happen again. I pray it doesn't happen again because that's why they keep winning. But those who get in has to be able to do something.
It's about to
Let me move to one more thing, because I'm $650,000. That's all that was. That was not good. That was not good. That was not good. But I'm gonna move on. Let me move on. And it's the city police officer. The corruption is just unbelievable, and we just let it happen.
But he was arrested. Now, how many police officers have been arrested on the watch of this administration? They've broken the record for the number of murders, the number of shootings, and for the number of officers arrested.
But
Yeah.
I just want to
Hurry
point
up.
out one
Yeah.
thing real quick. As John Rago corrected when the story first broke of McCall being arrested and indicted, he at that point was a former Wilmington
That's the
police
best we can
officer
do?
by 1 week.
Is that the best we
so
can do?
he was former.
Is that
Same thing they did with the young man the officer for the child incident.
Right.
He was a former officer at the time of his arrestment. He wasn't a current officer.
Since we're talking about that, let's talk about this. Why, despite lawmakers' promises, policy reform has gone nowhere in Delaware as it relates to this whole, what do you call it?
Leopold?
Yeah. How come?
Because lawmakers crumbled like a cookie under this under the pressure of Pete Swartkoff, who's the Speaker of the House, who has made it very clear that he does not want anything to do with Leopold being changed, getting to the floor of his side of the bill. The DOJ came in, they rewrote the bill, and they rewrote it in a way that gave them more power but took away even more transparency and accountability from the public side of things. When we go back to the Yaheem Harris case and the James McCall case, the fact is, the fact that he lied was hidden from the public until his indictment because of Leopold. Leopold has allowed for protections for bad officers, like the FOP. Oh, they're just bad apples. We can't get all the bad apples. Well, stop protecting the bad apples.
That's right.
Let's change Leopold so we can have accountability, so that we can see the public misconduct records, so that we can see, so we can have civilian oversight.
But you were promised this, Kobe. I remember back there when we was having all these protests. You were promised certain things were going to happen. What happened to the promises?
Oh yeah, and look, we got some of them, but some people was like, oh well, if you order a pizza,
Okay.
and the pizza comes to you, and it only has 2 slices in it instead of a whole pie, are you going to be happy
But
about
first,
that?
did you order the whole pie?
I
you order 2
did.
slices?
I paid for the whole pie.
Okay, and you only got 2 slices?
And I only got 2 slices.
And if you're black, then you ought to be
Right.
happy.
So there's people who are down in Dover right now who think that's good enough. Oh, well, at least you got 2 slices. Look, I'm a big guy. I eat a whole pizza myself. So I want it all. You promised us this. We pushed for this. This is what the community wanted.
Yes.
This wasn't what Kobe wanted. This wasn't what Cheyenne wanted. This was what we came together, not only as different civil rights groups and just organizing groups. We went out, we canvassed, we have talked to thousands of people about what matters most to them. And this was the policy that we came up with. And for legislators to say, well, we gave you some, can't y'all be quiet? Where's my thank you at? Is sad.
It's
Do
egregious.
your job.
It's egregious.
But now I'm going to go to the other side. Kobe sponsored the demonstration. They put the bridges up, made sure fewer people could come in. They couldn't get any support. They were terrified of the demonstration. And right now, as I have said on council floor and as I have said publicly, the FOP is in charge of the government.
Yeah.
The police is running the government at all levels, and that has to be reversed. And the only thing that bothers them, that makes them want to sit down and negotiate and talk, is when we hit the brakes. So if we need to demonstrate, if we need to demonstrate, then
That's the
that's
Curry
what
way.
we need to do.
That's the
Now,
Curry way.
You have cut them a break because you haven't called young people out. You haven't called for another demonstration. You've been down there for 2 years acting in good faith. Well, when they fail to deliver, because it's more important to have the support of the FOP, and they're Democrats until it comes to policing, and then they're all Trumpsters.
Well,
Okay, and you got to remember that the Delaware FOP, which represents all the police departments, took great pride
And being,
in announcing
there.
their support for Donald Trump.
And we'll be right back. And we're back. Kobe, this is my time. So what's going on with Kobe's Corner?
Yeah, so first off, I want to talk about voting rights. And we see what's going on the national level, or lack of what's going on the national level. But here in Delaware, there are people down in the General Assembly who are fighting to expand everyone's right to vote. In 2019, we did a huge step with early voting, which is a 10-day period leading up to it. But there was still some more components that we needed to handle. So House Substitute 1 to HB 25 has not only passed the House, but is now on the agenda for the Senate. It has passed the Senate committee. It was released out of committee on Wednesday and should be voted on pretty soon.
Yeah, and I was kind of glad to hear that, because I heard Street on our last show. I wasn't here, but I was on the ship enjoying it. And he said he thought it had already passed everything. Yeah. And I said, no, we got one more step to go. So that's good to hear that it's ready to get voted on.
One more step, and that's same-day voter registration. So if you're an unaffiliated voter in Delaware, which means you only go and vote in a general election, you're not a Democrat, Republican, independent whatsoever, you can register to vote that same day you go to the polls if you want to. And that's huge, because what happens, Delaware has very high voter registration, but what happens is, especially now, a lot of kids go to the DMV when it's time to get your license. What you thinking about? Being able to drive.
That's all.
So when you're clicking through those things, they click unaffiliated, they click independent, which is not truly independent here. It's actually a party here. It's IPOD, Independent Party of Delaware. They click one of those two just to get the process going, and don't realize that you have, because Delaware has closed primaries, you have to be a Democrat or Republican to vote in primaries here.
Yeah, my daughter said something to me, Street, that it shocked me. And she's only 11 years old, and she said, because ever since she was 2, she's always gone into the booth with me to vote at all the elections. And she said, Daddy, after looking at all the stuff that's going on, do I have to be a Democrat? I said, no, baby, what you want to be? I was so scared she'd go say Republican. She said, I want to be an independent. She said, because I want to be able to choose based on what's going on. And right now, she was sharing, and she's so smart, she was sharing so many different issues that are going on. So I'm encouraging people, engage the process. Yeah. And if you don't want to be a Democrat, don't be one. If you don't want to be a Republican, don't be. If you want to be an independent, be one. Get registered. And I think that's what we're going to have to start pushing.
And again, you can be independent, you can be unaffiliated. It's unaffiliated in Delaware to be truly independent. It's crazy. But again, if you want to take a part in the primary, so selecting who the nominees are going to be in November, you have to be in a primary
Which one of the two
party
usually gets it?
here in Delaware. Now, there are other states that have hybrid models. There's other states that have open primaries. So Delaware is still a closed primary. And that's what you saw in 2016 when Pizicki was running for mayor. He wrote a letter, sent out multiple letters to Republicans in the 8th District to flip their voter registration to Democrat to help him win. He got over 1,200 of them to flip and won by 234 votes.
Yeah, and that's something.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been 5 people running, then
he wouldn't have got it. Eugene would have got it. Absolutely. And that would have been a blessing from the Lord, but I'll leave that alone. Go to your next one.
The next bill was SB 320, sponsored by Senator Kyles Evans Gay. And that bill is a bill that will allow mail-in balloting, not only for people who've been affected or who've been impacted by a disability or something, but it would allow it for everyone and permit voters to fill out online or paper applications to receive ballots up to 7 days, no less than 7 days before the election. But it will not be sent out. So like in 2020, everyone was sent a request form that if you wanted a mail-in ballot, it won't be sent to you. You can go online and apply for it, but you don't have to have a reason for wanting to apply for it.
Gotcha.
Like you're going to be out of town.
I suppose I don't know how to work online. Why can't I pick up the phone and call somebody?
You can. You can request a paper one to fill it out as well too, and then you send that in, and then they'll send you a ballot as well.
Okay.
And then this all goes to making sure people can have plans to vote. So again, with the early voting, you can schedule out your time a little bit more. But next, I want to talk about something that's real interesting. On January 6, 2020, for the first time ever in the history of this nation, the Confederate flag stepped foot was carried in the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol. Well, a few months go by, and come to find out, the man who was carrying it lives in Laurel, Delaware, and the guy next to him was his son.
Wow.
Both men were involved in the January 6th insurrection. The guy carrying the flag was 53. His son was 24, and they both pled not guilty,
yeah.
even though the picture's clear as day, 4K. Perfectly see their faces. They should have wore masks because it was COVID, but I hope they had some Lysol in there. But both were found guilty of felony obstruction of an official proceeding and 4 misdemeanors, entering and remaining in a restricted building or on grounds, disorderly and disruptive conduct, and parading, demonstrating, and picketing in the Capitol building. So all of them, the sentencing will come later. But I just wanted to raise that. That was the first time ever the Confederate flag.
What state was he from?
From Delaware.
He was from Delaware.
But the
Delaware.
fact of the matter is, and I've told the story about how I was a graduate of university, grown man, running Hilltop Lutheran Neighborhood Center before I knew that Delaware was the only state
That's
in the
right.
Union that fought on both sides of the Civil War. Ain't nothing changed.
Nothing
And
at
we
all.
can sit here and act like it's a blue state and we're sitting high and dry. That's not true at all, okay? We have to get out and vote. We have to actively participate because that same Confederate, Trump-leaning segment of the population that was in the lower part of the state, in the Civil War area, they still exist and they're still dangerous.
All right.
Yeah, so next I want to talk about, I know I've talked about DHAP on this program before, the rental assistance program that helps you with rent and your and also with your utilities. Well, the state's housing authority under Eugene Young's leadership is announcing that before the end of this summer, they will be launching a mortgage assistance program here in Delaware that gives up to $40,000 in assistance for homeowners who are at risk of losing their home. So how that program is going to fully work, I don't know yet, but I think it's a great first step. Applicants must be income eligible, must meet the income eligible requirements, and be at least 30 days behind in their mortgage payments, or the two pillars of it right now. But Lori Jacobs is working with a lot of this through the Delaware State Housing Authority. So keep an eye out if you fall into that category and may need help. Keep an eye out. Sometime this summer, it should be rolling out. And the last thing I want to talk about, I know we have talked about it a few times on the show, is the Kathy McGinnis trial and what's going on there. So after they re-indicted her in Kent County after misfiling and indicting her in Newcastle, they sat a jury, and the trial is now on the way with the prosecution highlighting the improprieties, the witness tampering, and intimidation. But here's the thing, the defense countered by saying, yes, she made 42 requests to see people's emails prior to her knowing she was being indicted. Now, whether she internally knew it, no one knows. But before they made the announcement that she was being indicted,
I'll give you 2-1. She either walks or the jury's hung. 2-1.
yeah.
She either walks or the jury's hung.
So again, she's facing 5 main charges.
I'll give you 5-1.
But again, we're going to see where this all goes.
Yeah.
The trial should be wrapping up pretty soon, actually. I give it another week and a half.
She
at
either
max.
walks or the jury's hung.
I got a question I wanted to, and we're going to follow up on that to see. I got a question since we have another 30 seconds in your segment. Georgia.
Yes.
I'm concerned about Georgia. What is your feelings? Do you think Stacey will be able to bring it home this time, or do you think it has
She
gotten
brought it
rough?
home last time.
She did. I know, but the same people and some stronger people are running it. Do you think she'll be able to pull it off this time?
I think she will, right? When you look at it, you have Stacey Abrams, who has built a very strong infrastructure in Georgia and a national brand. And then you also have Reverend Warnock, who already currently represents Georgia. He has been able to deliver on a lot of things other than the things that President Biden has walked back. So changing the $200 or $2,000 checks to $1,400. Other than that, he has been able to pretty much deliver on every other of his campaign promises. So if people don't hold him accountable for that, I think he has a good chance. Now, it's also on President Biden to change this national climate up a little bit. I'm not knocking him, but I'm saying he's going to be blamed for the high gas prices, right? Down in Georgia right now, I think gas is $7.53.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm complaining because we just hit $5 up here in Delaware. I'm not
Just-
going down.
My gas is almost 6.
Well, you got a fancy car.
But not fancy, that big car.
I'm not going down to Georgia anytime soon because the gas is too high, and I'm definitely not going anywhere else that's over $5.50. So, you know, it's little things like that.
It's gonna be $6.50 here. What are you talking
And
about?
I'm going to start riding a bike.
Oh, that may be good for all of us.
But, you know, the national climate has to change for the better for the Democrats in order to pull this off. I mean, it's going to be so critical, especially in states like Georgia.
All right, we're going to
But
follow
you
that
missed
carefully.
one factor.
Okay.
Herschel Walker. People are not going to, I don't care how Republican they are, they have a problem with, the Republicans have a problem with the lead candidate now, and I think that's going
Well-
to help Stacey Abrams tremendously.
Yeah, so
Well, it may not help her as much as it'll help
Warnock.
Warnock.
But here's the
I know
thing.
it's going to help both of them.
It's going to help both of them.
And not only that, you've got Donald Trump who's probably going to come in at the end and say that Stacey would be a better governor than Kemp.
He already said it.
Oh, Jesus.
He has said it.
His candidate lost in the primary horribly, 27% to 70.
I saw it, yeah.
But here's the other thing. So what Jay was just talking about with Herschel Walker, Herschel Walker said he was an officer in Cobb County, a deputized sheriff. They come out and said, we have no record of that. He said, well, I was an honorary one,
Oh,
which
my
I have
God.
no clue what that means.
No, but he has,
because he doesn't.
and he has a cure for COVID. You just walk through.
Yep.
They put that advertisement up, and he's talking about all these fathers who don't support their children, and he just acknowledged that he's got a child that nobody ever knew
And
existed
also,
before.
he said he's never heard President Trump say he did not win the election, or that the election was stolen from him.
He said that?
He said that.
Where he been at?
That's what I'm saying. In Texas, where he lives.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, we got to go to it now. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, we had added another segment to the show called Street Heat. And every week you come with something new, and we just are anxious to see what's going on with Street Heat this week.
Well, unfortunately for me, Friday before last, I attended the funeral for Dr. James E. Newton, who was one of my professors at the University of Delaware. And just going back historically, when we were students, and I'm saying we, not me, we were students, University of Delaware, the time I entered, there was 10,000 white kids and 125 of us. And we didn't ask, we demanded that they started a Black Studies course, that they start a Black Studies department. And Dr. Newton became one of the professors who taught Black Studies and became the first director of Black Studies. And for me, it's troublesome because when Dr. Newton passed, and I reflected this in my resolution in a letter that I sent to county council resolution and a letter that I sent to Mrs. Newton, that Dr. Newton never stopped being my teacher. And for example, the United States Office of Civil Rights comes to town, and I got a federal complaint against the Colonial School District that I submitted. I got a federal complaint against the Christina School District that I submitted. Are we all in town? I'm showing up. Well, I didn't know Dr. Newton was going to show up. But I made my presentation about the complaints, and he grabbed me afterwards and told me what he thought I did right, and told me what he thought I could do better next time and what I could do to improve the strength of the complaints, which I did. And, you know, probably the proudest moment of my 48 years now in public service was the day we opened and dedicated the Route 9 Library. That was a 12-year fight. And, you know, it's supposed to be a great day for me. But the best part of the day was when I looked in the back and I saw Dr. Newton. And I had the opportunity to recognize him and thank him publicly for everything he did for me. And of course, he did for so many others. Now, if you looked online over the last 2 weeks, there was an editorial by Dr. Tony Allen, who I graduated in 1974. Dr. Allen was a student under Dr. Newton in 1988, I think he graduated. But he wrote a masterfully crafted editorial recognizing the contributions that Dr. Newton made to him, other students, and talked about when he was stopped by University of Delaware police and ended up spending the night to jail. And as a result of that, Dr. Newton worked with the students to bring one of the biggest demonstrations that ever been brought to the University of Delaware. Dr. Allen came to the funeral service, and he gave outstanding remarks. He sounded like what he is, the president of the university. On the other hand, and I don't want to get us put off the air, but I'm pissed to the highest degree of pissivity about the fact that the University of Delaware president was not there. He sent somebody. This man put in 33 years, started a department, put University of Delaware on the map as relates to black studies. He also contributed greatly because his master's degree was in fine arts, and he was the first African American to get a degree in fine arts from Central State University. And the contributions that he made to all students, and for the University of Delaware president not to show up to send somebody is just a slap in the face. But anybody who thinks like I do, his not being there sends a crystal clear message. There's no concern, no regard for the history of black students, black affairs at the University of Delaware because he didn't show up, which means there's not going to be any progress. And as I said on council floor the other night when I presented the county resolution in recognition of Dr. Newton, this is J Street talking. Not had anything to do with any organization that I represent or I'm a part of, has nothing to do with the family. This is J Street talking. But since he didn't show up, all the things that are missing from the University of Delaware, I'm going to sit on here as long as you let me, and every week talk about what's not going on at the university, what's been taken away, what needs to be brought back. And I don't plan to ever have a conversation with the University of Delaware president. I don't even know his name. All I know is the first three letters of the name is ASS. That's all I know. and the Board of Trustees has a responsibility now. When we were students, from 70 to 74, we fought for and got Black Studies, then the Black Studies Department. We fought for and got a Minority Affairs Board. We fought for and got a Black Cultural Center. We fought for and were able to bring black Greek letter organizations to the University of Delaware. Ain't a whole lot been done since then. But prior to going to University of Delaware, University had an Upward Bound program which targeted minority students, which targeted city residents. It's no longer there. University of Delaware had a summer sports program that targeted city children. As a matter of fact, when I was parks director, I paid for the buses for the kids from the city of Wilmington to go down there and be able to participate. It doesn't exist anymore because the former president didn't like something that the person running the program said about him or the university, and rather than fire him or eliminate his position, he just eliminated the program that he was running. All those things no longer exist. The Forum to Advance Minorities in Engineering, once upon a time, was in part located on the University of Delaware campus to give those students who were potential upcoming engineers and were going to go to college potentially for engineering. That no longer exists. All those things I am going to continue to scream and holler because it's crystal clear to me by him not showing up that have been taken away need to be brought back. And second, the late, great Richard Wilson, who was a major part of bringing the first 125 of us there. We at the time, we were the largest African-American student body. Of course, he was able to increase it significantly over the years. But what he did for black students at the University of Delaware, matter of fact, there was one year we had a black homecoming king and queen because they knew we couldn't win 10,000 whites and 100 blacks. But all the things that the late, great Richard Wilson did in recruiting and took care of all of us, because you know students, we come as the scholarly, the nerd-like, we come as athletes. Even during the 70s, we had gay students, and they were not in the closet. But Dick Wilson took care of all of us. And he's one of the few people that I know who had the wherewithal to be able to work with students from all different backgrounds and all walks of life.
Can I just
Dr. Newton was able to do the same thing. And nobody's gonna get any rest from me and my big stinking mouth until both of them are properly recognized by the University of Delaware. You put up buildings and you put up statues for everybody else. No, these two are not gonna go away. Right. You know, it's great that a former president tore down the dorms that I stayed in while I was there, and they built new dorms and they named them Louis L. Reddy. Well, the same kind of thing, in my opinion, needs to be done for the late, great Richard Wilson and the late, great Dr. James E. Newton. And as long as y'all let me talk about it, I'm gonna keep on talking about it.
Let me add something to it, because what I did was, when I got your message and we were talking, you said your heart was heavy. And I took serious to that because I respect you for real. I'm not one of those people who say one thing and do another. And I heard you say through your interaction with us in the chat that your heart is heavy. And you had shared how President of Delaware State University, who is an alum of University of Delaware, attended personally. And how he gave remarks to reflect the life of our brother who had transitioned. And then you said, for the president of the University of Delaware not to show up at all was a disgrace, and I agreed. Because, as you said, he was a pioneer in that he started the first black studies. His writings, see, you know him as a professor. I know him through some of his writings. And when I called the president's office, I think his name is Dr. Dennis Asney.
All I know is the first three letters are ASS, and there's an A after that. I can't pronounce it.
Okay, well, I called his office, as I told you I would, saying I would like to speak with him because and I shared who I was, not that that's important, and I said, and the reason why I wanted to speak, as the lady said, well, can I just inform him why? He has not returned my call. I'm going to call him again, because as you talk about it, I want to give him a chance to respond. If you had enough time to send somebody, you had enough time to show up. Some people
especially
are worse.
Since school is out, commencement.
Absolutely, absolutely. But even if school wasn't out, this man started a department in academia. That's big. For those of you who may be watching, you may say, well, that's not that important. It is, because he was able to start a department at a historically white college so that the African Americans would be able to understand their heritage, understand their history, to be able to identify. So not to show up is to say that this wasn't significant enough for me. So I am going to continue to help you. I'm going to call him again this week.
Well, I had nothing to say to him in this life, but I'm going to have a lot to say about him. So some of the things I just talked about are changed, and I'm going to have a lot to say about him as long as he's there. And I'm going to have a lot to say to the General Assembly about what doesn't go on at the University of Delaware when they keep, you know, the University of Delaware officials can walk in and get $125 million just like that.
Yeah.
I had to go through litigation to get $100 million a year for low-income and at-risk children for the entire state of Delaware. Yet the University of Delaware, 60–70% of the students are from out of state.
And that's an issue for me.
For them to be able to continue to bring in all these out-of-state kids, turn their backs on our kids, black, white, etc., and essentially close the door to African-American students in the state of Delaware is outrageous, and I'm going to continue to talk about it so long as I can talk. And let me be real clear. When I entered the arena in 1974, University of Delaware had a voluntary plan to desegregate, and so did Del State. Del State followed through on their plan. The University of Delaware got away with doing absolutely nothing of significance except to eliminate programs like Upward Bound, to eliminate the summer sports program and the exposure that city kids and kids throughout the state of Delaware in high school would have to and access the experience of a university campus. They took that away from them, and nobody's done anything about it ever since. And as long as I can talk, I'm gonna keep talking about it.
And we'll be right back. Well, this is the end of the show. I hope and trust that you enjoyed our show. I'm going to say to those of you who are watching us, we are going to follow those displaced residents who are in the city of Wilmington who have been removed because landlords are not doing what they're supposed to do, because we do believe that this is just an outright injustice, and it lays at the lap of the city to handle its residents. And I hope and trust that you all enjoyed the show today. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
This is Jay Street.
See ya.
Happy Juneteenth, y'all.